Let's chat a bit about mentoring because this one is very, very important. Okay. When I graduated, I definitely wanted strong mentors around me. Most students that I work with currently really, really desire that. Okay. So I wanted to find a workplace that had a bunch of like minded professionals. So when I graduated PT school, we moved out to Colorado. I didn't know anyone. I had very little networking in that area. So I started to do is just look around. I looked at all the local PT facilities, right? And I looked at the clinicians. I looked at what kind of credentials they had, right? I was looking for CSs at the time. I was looking for OCSs. I was looking at SCSs. I really liked the selected functional movement assessment at the time. So I was looking out for professionals that had that. I also wanted to learn more about things like dry needling. So I was looking for clinicians that had that. Okay. And what I did was I just started visiting these clinics, bringing them coffee, bringing them donuts, figuring out how I can help them. Right. And asking if I can shadow. Right. And most places, if you're bringing donuts, they're pretty cool with you just hanging out. All right. And over the course of time, figure out if you can be more helpful. So one of the clinics I really enjoyed being at, right, that had a lot of clinicians I thought were very good, they were volunteering once a year at a local high school and they're doing FMSs. So I thought that was cool. I really like that, functional movement screens, for folks who don't know what FMS is. And I wanted to help out, and I did. And you know what ended up happening was this clinic was going to hire one of their students. One of those students ended up bailing and they offered me the job. Okay. So you can do the same thing. You can find local clinics, right? You can get a flavor of how they practice. So for me, I was able to go inside of a lot of these clinics and see how they actually end up doing their physical therapy, see if I jive with that. If I do, awesome. I can see if there's a job opportunity, right? And I got to tell you, I looked at a lot of different clinics and there were no job opportunities. So sometimes that can be challenging, but definitely don't give up, because I was told by several headhunters that I would never find a job in orthopedics in the Denver area. And lo and behold, a couple months later, I did. And it was in a clinic that I actually wanted to work in, right? So find a great workplace that has good mentors. I did. And what I ended up doing was obviously bouncing ideas off of these clinicians every day when I was working with folks, asking for advice. But I also scheduled time outside of my normal hours to shadow these folks, right? So think about your schedule that you created for continuing education. You can do the same thing for shadowing and mentoring. So I would either come in early, right? Or I would stay late. Or if I had a patient that canceled, I would go over and talk and speak to the other clinicians as they were working with their clients. And I just learned and soaked it all up, right? Great environment to be in. Now, the next thing is that in my direct clinic, there were no clinicians that were treating, let's say, CrossFit or powerlifting or strength sports, right? So I wanted to find some local clinicians that were doing that. And I did. So from working in multiple CrossFit gyms, we'll get to that in a minute, right? Through my networking with CrossFit coaches, I actually found a good PT, a couple good PTs, but one good PT named Justin Dudley, a phenomenal CrossFit PT in general, Cascade, physical therapy up in the Denver area, if you're ever looking for a good PT up there. But he was working with a lot of CrossFit athletes. And I basically just had one of my PT friends connect me with him. And then I asked, hey, can I come shadow you? Can I come learn from you? And he was awesome. He said, yeah, no problem. Come on in. And I set aside time in my schedule. I think, I talked to my boss, who was great about doing this, but I kind of shadowed in the less busy times of the day. So somewhere between, let's say, 10 and 2, usually in PT facilities, if you're not working in geriatrics, that's an area of the day that there's not a lot of folks can actually get in for PT. So what I did is that I didn't work during those hours. I worked more kind of the early hours or later hours, which was actually kind of helpful for my job at the time. And they allowed me to do this just because they're trying to have more PTs available in those busier hours. And I fulfilled that. And I went and I did some mentoring with Justin Dudley. And we worked together with a couple of CrossFit athletes. He gave me a couple of good ideas. I bounced some ideas off of him and I learned more. And I feel like I got a really good mentoring experience in the niche that I wanted to try to grow into. Okay. The other thing I did a lot of, continue to do a lot of, and I definitely recommend you do, is to seek out some virtual mentors, right? Guys like Mike Reinold, and it's funny because I looked up to this gentleman before I started working there, right? And eventually I was kind of networked a bunch and was given the opportunity to work there. And I've worked next to Mike for the past 6 years now. So it's been a pretty cool experience, but I looked up to him years ago. I really liked what he was doing. And I wanted to try to become what he is currently. And I'm on my way, right? We're doing good at this point. And I just read all of his stuff. I watched all his YouTube videos. I bought all of his continuing education courses, right? I emailed him. I reached out to him. We actually collaborated a little bit in terms of sharing each other's content. So that was a very good learning experience for me. Like I said earlier, trying to find folks that are in the shoes that you want to be in, right? And it's going to be much faster for you to learn from them and figure out how they did it as opposed to figuring out yourself. So that's a big thing that I did from a mentoring perspective. I was learning a ton from him, despite he was not in my face actively teaching me, right? And I would say some of the best mentors I've had over the course of my life have all been virtual, a lot of which have no idea who I am, right? So you don't have to meet the person to learn from that person. You can get a lot of very good online virtual mentoring via the free content that these folks are putting out, the books they put out, the courses they put out, right? Whatever it is, right? So seek those guys out and learn from them. So what are the action steps for you next? Find mentors who've accomplished what you desire in your career and set aside some time to learn from them, okay? There's a reason why they are where they are today, and you can accelerate your career much faster by learning how to follow those steps, right? Avoid those pitfalls. So here's what I want you to do next, guys. If you enjoyed this video so far, I have an entire course. It's free. It's called the Fitness Pain-Free Mini Course. And we go over 3 lessons going to help you take a lot of this information that we went over so far and put it into practice. The first lecture is called Why We Need a Better System. So first and foremost, the way we treat fitness individuals, all right, athletic people in the gym from a physical therapy perspective is pretty much broke, okay? So we need a better system to serve the folks that are in the gym that get hurt, they want to get back to training, all right? Lecture number 2 is called 7 Reasons Why People Get Hurt in the Gym. And essentially, we have to know the reasons why people get hurt in the gym so we can keep them safe in the future, right? And when they get hurt, we have to know why and how to get them back to training in the gym. Okay, so a thorough understanding of this is very, very important. I actually have a really cool infographic that goes along with this lecture that you get for free as well. And lastly, we go over a case study of how to get someone out of pain and back to training. So these principles are all phenomenal, but we don't actually put it together and you don't understand how to create a program to get people back in the gym and keep them safe for the long term, then we lose, right? So I'll put a link in the show notes for this. It's a Fitness Pain-Free Mini Course. Definitely check this out.